Thank you for joining me. Scott Ryan here. I'm not a car salesman yet, but I've got to ask the question, what is it going to take for me to get you into reality today? I've been listening. We're so prone to these defense mechanisms to avoid reality and to always default to the optimistic, sanguine position. As conservatives, we've done this for decades, and occasionally we've won some battles along the way, and we've staved off our destruction for a time. But as far as winning the war, when it comes to this nation, to delude oneself, and I'm listening to talk radio, and I'm listening to some of the leaders in talk radio come up with some emphatic speeches to rally the troops, listening to Ronald Reagan clips and getting excited and getting the emotions stirred up. But unless we direct those emotions properly to something productive, it's all for naught, and it actually will cause us more pain because it is a diversion. You cannot get blood from a stone. I have faith in the founding documents. Our framers put together the greatest document ever written, aside from the Bible. And its foundation is in the Bible, and that's not ironic. My faith in the founding documents and what is America is not shaken. My faith in Americans is what is shaken. And it's not anathema to say that, because I'm in good company. Our founding fathers knew that this was going to happen. They predicted it would happen. As Ben Franklin left the Constitutional Convention, and he said, "We have given you a republic, if you can keep it." And Franklin and most of our prominent founding fathers believed that its time would be limited, and that on average, like 200 years was sort of the consensus. At best, it would be maintained. It's the degeneracy of mankind. It exhausts itself and implodes. It's a constant battle of good versus evil in this world. That's really what it comes down to. And evil seeks to dominate, to subjugate. The most base instinct in man, the arrogance, the pride of a few who think that they are better, who reject God and believe that they are God and their destiny, just like Nietzsche said, and the communists and the fascists subscribe to the notion that there are these elite. They believe they're the elite. The Democrat Party, the left, believe they're the elite. We are nothing but animals. We are super ape. We exist to serve the super state. That's our function. We are the scaffold. They are superior. We exist to prop them up, to be their scaffold, to prop them up on our backs. That is our function, for them to lead. They all talk about how we need to have some skin in the game, how we need to be less selfish, but they're talking about us. They're not talking about themselves. They live in the lap of luxury. Obama takes the most lavish vacations, has the most lavish parties. He is our Louis XVI, or deserves to be. But this is typical of the left. Do as I say, not as I do. Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there are not enough people in this country. Yes, we've come back. As I said, we've won battles before. But the numbers are against us. For decades, we have watched the breakdown of the family unit. We have seen the consequences of children raised in broken homes, and the tragedy and the lack of discipline that it has on society as a whole. There are exceptions. I don't mean to make a blanket statement and apply that to everyone. But a society as a whole, with a broken home, as Marx predicted, that the way to bring down America is to break down the family unit. The family is indeed the microcosm of the nation. And when that family is strong, the nation is strong. When the family is broken, that nation will crumble. That's the key to this. We've fought through in the 1980s and even into the 90s, despite having generations of broken homes. But now we have generations who were born and raised to generations who were born to generations of broken homes. There is an attrition, and we have reached the tipping point. There are these kids right now coming out of college, these kids in high school, they're so far gone. There's too many generations of people who are so far gone, who refuse to be responsible, who refuse to care about what's going on. There is no scandal that Obama can commit. Holder, will he resign? No way. Obama will not give an inch. They will go on the charge. We will see contempt and insolence like we've never dreamt possible. The kind of insolence and arrogance that is only reserved generally for third world banana republic dictators. We are seeing it right now in Washington, D.C. No matter what crimes, he can be caught with a smoking gun in his hands. He can do anything. There is nothing in this cult of personality that the American people will not blow off. You cannot outrage these people because they are in love with this personality. They will say, they will go through polls. You can ask them if they support these policies and enumerate all of his policies, and they will say they're against them. And you will ask them if they support Obama, and his approval ratings sky high. They will not hold him accountable for anything, and that is why we are doomed. I mean, I have never seen a greater proliferation of ignorance in my entire life. When the people with whom I work and the office, people I come in contact, I've never seen a greater percentage of ignorance. I mean, nobody knows anything about what's going on scandal-wise. They couldn't tell you anything about any of the scandals surrounding this president. Yes, we can blame the media, but we are to blame ourselves because we have allowed it to get to this point. We are responsible too. But there is no way, my friends, no way that this country is ever going to survive this. This country as it stands, these 50 United States are doomed as they are. Tyranny is guaranteed, and anyone who denies this and continues to reside in Sodom, in a blue state, and chooses to put their head in the sand like an ostrich and act like none of this is happening and convince yourself that the American people, when they see what happens when Obamacare is implemented, when they see the death panels, when they see, you tell yourself, the tragedies, the euthanasia, the egregious acts of barbarism brought about by Obamacare, then they'll see, and we will have this tidal wave, this resurgence, and back to the conservative roots. That's not going to happen. That's a delusion, people. We've already seen it. We have seen these egregious abortion acts, the trials, and the unthinkable. I mean, it makes the Nazis look benevolent when comparing the barbarism, the cruelty, the way these babies were handled. There is nothing that can shake these people. There is nothing. They will not blame it. In their obstinance, their eyes are blinded by God himself. We are handed over to judgment. They will not give Obama responsibility for anything. The same thing happened after Rome, when Rome was sacked by the Visigoths. St. Augustine wrote about the fact that the Visigoths, being the pagans they were and the barbarians they were, they gave strict orders to destroy, rape, plunder, and murder everyone and anyone, no holds barred, but to spare the churches. Even though they didn't believe in God, they respected, for some reason, they respected, and they gave deference to the Christian churches. And so the pagans, the godless, the degenerates, many of them hid in the churches and their lives were spared. Yet, years later, as St. Augustine wrote in his book, The City of God, they blamed the Christians for what befell them, despite the fact that they hid and their lives were spared due to the power of God sparing the lives of those who took refuge and asylum in the churches. for inexplicable reasons, these barbarians spared them. You would think that they would see that and turn from their wicked ways, but they wouldn't. That's the evil that permeates the heart of man, the darkness. Instead, they blame the very church, the very people who are responsible for their lives being spared. And that's the kind of people we're dealing with in the United States, ladies and gentlemen. The bottom line is, if you are wasting your time thinking that there is enough time to make generations of indoctrinated ingrates suddenly see the light and have an epiphany, you are sadly delusional, and you're wasting your time, and you're endangering yourself. The only thing that can be done is for those who venerate the Constitution to coalesce in several contiguous God-fearing states, the Bible Belt. Those states, I'm in Florida, our House, our Senate, our executive branch are all Republican controlled. And believe me, I'm not a partisan, but there are many good conservatives here in Florida, and we want those living in Sodom to come here and further solidify our numbers. We need more people, better conservatives, to focus and run for office in these states. I'd like to be in South Carolina. Actually, I believe that's the most conservative state in the Union, despite Lindsey Graham. But we need to look at these states, and if you can, get out while you can, because you're going to be plundered. The only hope you have is to live in a state that is going to stand up, and they already are standing up and against Obamacare and against the gun grabs. That, my friends, is our only hope. They can have the rest of the country. They can have the East Coast and the West Coast, the Northeast Coast, all the West Coast. We need about Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Texas, Mississippi, maybe Louisiana. They could have Louisiana, New Orleans. 6 states, maybe 7. I wouldn't want to be landlocked, though. That's one thing that I would advise against. But you've got to stop deluding yourselves. That's the bottom line. I could talk forever about this. But if you have hope in Americans, that's where you're failing. That's where you are hurting yourself. It's time to get productive. It's time to get something done and to stand together. As Ben Franklin said in the time of the Revolution, we must hang together or hang separately. And that's what it's going to come down to, because this guy has, from the beginning, intended, from his very first day as a community organizer through the state legislature in Illinois, his intent has never been anything less than the destruction of the United States of America, the destruction of our Constitution, and tyranny. That's why he surrounded himself, his cabinet, all of his friends are raving lunatics. That's the amazing thing. The amazing thing, how palpable the evil is and all that surrounds him. Yet he comes out clean and is so palatable. How somebody so evil who surrounds themselves with such glaring, notorious criminals in his cabinet and friends, who the evil emanates from them and is so palpable, as I said, any obtuse person could see it. Yet this guy is so congenial, so charming. He is the most dangerous person America has ever faced. It's time to get real. Thank you for joining me. I'm Scott Ryan.